the motion not to pay the 500 million into the fund for 2019, given the ongoing exceptional circumstances of the UK's proposed withdrawal from the European Union. And of course, you did announce the package of 1.2 billion, excluding EU funding, for Brexit in Budget 2020. And you went on to say, though, that you were prepared to use resources that would otherwise go to the Rainy Day Fund, because obviously the purpose was to address the possibility of an adverse shock to the economy. Many commentators could hear, look, after the disastrous general election outcome in the UK, they immediately said, of course, the result at least brings certainty. Clearly, the UK will be exiting the EU on January 31st next, but Brexit uncertainty is surely destined to continue. It seems likely now that we could be facing another no-deal, cliff-edge Brexit at the end of the transition period. Full trade Brexit on December 31st, 2020. And we learned today, of course, from the UK Prime Minister that the UK House of Commons will shortly include that particular date in statute as a definitive date of the end of the transition of the UK's transition into a future EU-UK trade agreement. But even after the future customs and trade arrangements for Northern Ireland are made, I think uncertainty will continue, and perhaps most of all there is the major possibility that last week's election was in fact the last election of the current United Kingdom, as Scotland moves decisively to independence alongside us and within the EU. Indeed, if the Scottish Labour Party and Labour movement now throws its weight behind Scotland's push for independence, it seems clear that Scottish freedom will be impossible to stop. It is timely then to hold the additional 500 million from the Exchequer to the Rainy Day Fund, to hold it in the General Exchequer this year. But in his budget speech, of course, you did say that and you've confirmed tonight, the 1.5 billion will be transferred to the fund from the Ireland Strategic Investment Fund. You might, in your reply, perhaps give us a report on how the last month of that, how that's worked out. And when we discussed the National Surplus Act, or what became the Act last January, Cathaoirleach, of course, I outlined my continuing opposition to the establishment of the Rainy Day Fund. I believed then, and I still believe, that all available current and capital resources should be allocated to addressing crucial needs of our constituents, especially in health, disability and home care services, in housing and education, security and other services, and for the restoration of salaries for all our public servants to pre-crash levels. We know the sad history of the National Pensions Reserve Fund in 2001, how the fund was decimated by Fianna Fáil and the Greens, and later how it was splurged by the outrageous blank guarantee supported then by Fine Gael and tragically by the Labour Party. The Minister, in his reply, of course, might now give us an update on the current cash and near cash reserves of the National Treasury Management Agency, of NTMA. What's the latest figures in those? And the current assets of the Strategic Investment Fund. And of course also the other major fund, the estimated state shareholdings in the major pillar banks. And those shareholdings, of course, were originally earmarked to pay down part of our still huge national debt. And of course, the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council reminded us recently, I think at the Budget Oversight Committee, that the government's debt burden is the 6th highest still in the OECD. In fact, at this time last year, our net debt burden, Minister, as you know, was equivalent to 90% of GNI star, and only France, I think, Italy, Portugal, Japan and Greece have higher net debt burdens in the OECD. I note, and you may not have a chance to read it, that the Economist newspaper, in its 2020 survey of the world economy, it puts our capital income, or in the survey of countries that it does, Ireland's per capita income seems to be the highest of all. We've even surpassed Singapore, Switzerland and so on and so forth, although I know it's Luxembourg. They don't seem to do an analysis of Luxembourg. But the other reality, Minister, is that we know that every Irish citizen has a national debt per capita burden equal to nearly half of these elevated and, of course, because of foreign direct investment, probably scarcely believable per capita income statistics. But I mean, IFAC and other commentators, they continued, of course, have continued to urge that the Rainy Day Fund and the further so-called, what they call this prudence account, should encompass so-called temporary receipts, including unexpected corporation tax receipts. But however you look at it, I mean, salting away another 500 million in a year from current revenues and the 1.5 billion, from the Strategic Investment Fund, most people could think the opportunity cost is so vast, it could have been better used for much-needed productive capital investment in our economy. And of course, it was Michael Noonan, I think Deputy Noonan, who first came forward with the rainy day idea and followed up on an original proposal there by Deputy Michael McGrath. So, Fianna Fáil Fine Gael, I think the Rainy Day Fund is certainly part of your joint policies. I do support, I have to say in conclusion, the creation and coherence of a national wealth fund like Norway or China, but only when the profound needs of our people in health, housing and other critical areas have been addressed by government. It wasn't opportune or necessary to create the fund, I believe, earlier this year. And now we see that within a few weeks, as Deputy Burton has said, we have to change our plans and put this 500 million back into the national account.
Right.
Thanks, Cairn.
Rural independence.